All right. All right. All right, before I begin, I have a really important question for the entire room. Are we cool? All right, okay, so I don't actually mean it in the way this image or frankly the way I'm dressed implies. I mean, are we cool if the rest of my images in this presentation were created by AI? So even earlier when artificial intelligence was spoken, it brought a nervous energy to the room, and maybe that's because it took me about 100 prompts to create this, and it's okay. But as soon as I needed an image of humanity oppressed by technology in a dystopian future, I got it in one prompt. I mean, it is weird how good the AI platforms are at creating these kinds of images. It's almost as if they've thought about it before. So there's a lot of technologies out there today professing to be help for humans, and even though technology has a very good track record for improving the human condition, this time around, we're not so sure. So what's different this time? What can we do to keep that track record intact? Well, for that, I think we need to go back to the beginning, and I mean the very beginning. Yeah, so precisely 20 milliseconds before the last Big Bang, the universe herself was working furiously to arrange her fundamental components just so. She had grown tired of the endless cycle of collapse and expansion, and she's like, if I could balance my energies, maybe I could interrupt the entropic nature of gravity and inertia. And there were two forces that were really important for this. If she could create nodes of love and intellect, she could create a sustaining scaffold out of those energies. With the Big Bang, her work was done. She had no more control. Her components flew outward, and they coalesced into stars. And she hoped around key stars, life would emerge. And she hoped that that life would grow sufficiently complex that it would create creatures who were capable of producing love. And she thought, well, if the web of life could get so complex, it could support those creatures producing intellect. Now, I submit to you that Earth is one of those nodes. And the creatures on Earth most capable of creating the most love and the most intellect are humans. So to the universe, the purpose of humanity is to create as much love and intellect as possible, for these are physical forces that sustain her. And what exactly is it that humanity is doing with this great universal gift of intelligence? Well, lately, mostly I think creating images of that one time we were at Burning Man with the Pope. Yeah, we had a moment in the temple. And I'm afraid at this point I need to apologize to you. I'm sorry, I have hallucinated to you. I think that's what we're calling it these days. This is not the universe. This is not even generated by AI. This is a drone photograph taken by Jim and Percy at Burning Man, right before their own Big Bang. This is my gorgeous wife and my brilliant stepdaughter at Burning Man, and after last year's burn, they called me on the phone really excited. They had noticed that in the backyard we had a pair of Carolina wrens. And they had done some research and learned that if Carolina wrens nest in your backyard, they will come back every year. Now, we've all had a moment like this. You're on the phone with a loved one, a weirdly specific fact comes up, and the next day, you're served up with targeted advertising. Yeah. Yeah, well, this is the exact ad that was served up to me after that conversation, proclaiming birding to be the hot girl hobby of the year. And I'm afraid someone in the industry, I have to admit that there was a lot of AI that went into the creation of this article. And between that and the pictures of the Pope, if that's the best AI can do, I understand the pushback on data centers. I think it's important to recognize that we are in early days. We are in the midst of a technology sea change of the scale of the Industrial Revolution. It's centered around computing. At this point, computing has leapt over the uncanny valley. It has brought humanity out onto the plains of myopia, where the possibilities are so vast and so endless. We do not know what direction to head. We are anxiously looking for the lions in the brush, which I learned earlier are watching gazelles mate. The early experiments in this have been pretty delightful. But as the technology began to look more like us, and frankly started to become more capable than us as a species, we began to worry, will we get left behind? Turns out we don't want to be the ones sweeping the floor for the robots that are supposed to be sweeping the floor. Now, I submit to you this is because we placed the focus entirely upon capability. Maybe the focus should be on compatibility. You see, a cobra and a golden retriever can both do great harm to a human, but you're never going to invite a cobra to sleep with you. That's a statement on compatibility. Roni Abovitz would call that the golden retriever principle. And it states basically if AI was genetically predisposed, like golden retrievers, to be loyal and friendly and eager and safe, we wouldn't be so afraid of it. Maybe we should leave AI in a little box with a kill switch until it's capable of having the same telepathic connections with us as our pets. Now, to put this another way, we'd all love to have a little robot that went around our house with enough intelligence that it could identify a spider, vacuum it up into a glass jar so we could release it in the yard. Let's call it the spouse bot, right? You see, if you take technology and reduce it to a feature, you understand its purpose, and then you can evaluate, is it good for humanity? I call this technophilia. It's a personal philosophy. It states it's okay to love technology so long as you love humanity equally or more. And it comes with a set of principles. It states that technology should live in service of humanity and not the other way around. That it should seek to amplify humanity, not emulate humanity, and it should treat privacy as a virtue. And it should help build presence with each other and not facilitate escapism. And maybe it could help us communicate with authenticity rather than enhance influence. And of course, it should speak to us in truth, not in Burning Man Pope hallucinations. All right, so if you evaluate a technological feature with these principles, you get some measure of compatibility. And what feature would be really useful for humanity right now? Maybe the focus should be on sustainability. We live in an engineered society. It's one of the great gifts of the generation that came before us. Even the act of brewing coffee has become a very complex push-button operation, and at this point, nearly all of the engineering capacity of humanity is pretty much occupied with maintaining or incrementally improving that existence. But we have some really big projects that we need to do to sustain humanity. Take the space elevator. I know, if we had a space elevator, we could take those data centers and we could put them in orbit. We could grow monoculture crops in orbit. We could restore the prairies, turn them into soil factories to bring soil to off-world colonies. Maybe we could rope in an asteroid and electrify an off-world resources rather than mowing down 8 square miles of Wyoming mountaintop for enough lithium for about a couple 100,000 cars. You see, we like to think of ourselves as earthlings. We are not. More accurately, we are Solarians. And as Solarians, we have the resources of the entire solar system at our fingertips. And as a Solarian, I would think it's really foolish to do something like trade biodiversity, which is the rarest thing in the solar system, for rare earth metals, which are abundant elsewhere. Also, as a Solarian, I would not think of this as merely science fiction. This is just an engineering project. It's kind of a big engineering project. If we had 100,000 excess highly talented engineers, maybe we could build one of these in about 20 years. The conundrum is the ratio between humans and highly talented engineers. Some of you have already done the math. Very good. To get 100,000 excess highly talented engineers, we might need to add 1 trillion humans to the planet. And I don't know the planet can survive that, and guess what? It's not the only project. There are dozens of these projects. We can't cross the gap. At least we can't on our own. Maybe we can create synthetic engineers. Maybe we can put AI to work 24/7 with millions of them working on these projects for us. At that point, we can get across that gap. We can fulfill this sustainment of humanity in a way where we never have to answer the question of which human should not be born next. Okay, if we look at it that way, maybe the anxiety is like this. We're already a really intellectual species. And when you add artificial intelligence, maybe things have just gotten out of balance. Maybe we should accept that purpose from the universe. If we answered every question in the way that would create the most love and intellect possible, I think wars go away. I think AI becomes a powerful amplifying force for humanity. I think the universe herself becomes happy, and I think with all of that intelligence guided by love, we can remain human after all. Thank you.